An estimated 200,000 kids are tried, sentenced, or incarcerated as adults every year in the U.S. But what happens when a child lies during a police interrogation, not lies to deny, but falsely confesses to a murder he didn't commit? Now, Tyler was a 13-year-old honor student in Mississippi with no history of violence. So it was a complete shock to his small community when Tyler was arrested and charged with the murder of his sister's husband in May 2003. He spent 6 years in adult prison before he was discovered as innocent and released. Take a look.
My half-sister killed her ex-husband and wanted me to take the blame for it because I was 13 and she told me that I would get a slap on the wrist. I did it because she was my sister and I loved her. I was convicted and I was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole until age 65. In prison, it was an awful place. I mean, just fights, riots. It was horrible. I got out of prison by winning an appeal and having my conviction overturned by the state Supreme Court.
Might go.
The truth finally came out. I'm so glad this is over. This has been a long, hard road.
We felt the jury would do the right thing.
People ought to really realize that our system is very fallible, that there are people that are innocent that are in prison.
My sister is currently on death row for the murder of her husband. I love her because she's still my sister, but I don't want to have anything to do with her.
Well, we're talking about horrific headlines here, and that is a horrific one. Tyler, you went in with the idea of confessing when you went in there, right? You had already made the deal with your sister?
Yes.
So you just walked in and said you did it?
No, at first I went in and just like the 8-year-old in Arizona, I denied having anything to do with it. My mother was in the room with me initially, and then they took her out of the room with me and wouldn't let her back into the room with me, and then that's when I falsely confessed.
All right, but did you do it on purpose, or were you coerced into it?
To confess?
Yes.
I was coerced by my sister.
By your sister, but not by the police?
No, not by the police.
All right. At the time you confessed, you thought you're just going to go get some easy time for a short period of time and then you'll be back on the street?
I honestly believed, is what my sister told me, that nothing would happen to me because I was 13.
Yeah. So then you wound up life without parole?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At what point did you say, whoa, wait a minute, I now want to tell the truth?
I sat in jail about 3 days trying to get in contact. As soon as I realized that she was lying, and when I was arrested, I knew that I had to go back and tell the truth. So I started sending notes out to the sheriff's deputies, and at that time I had a court-appointed attorney, and she wouldn't come to the jail, and the sheriff refused to talk to me without a lawyer. So I started sending notes, and they finally decided to talk to me without having an attorney present.
Nancy, how does this happen? I mean, do they just... He confesses, so they say, fine, case closed, and move on. How does this happen from a prosecutor's standpoint?
Well, before we pin it on the cops and police as being the bad guys, let's talk about the real culprit, that being the sister. May she also rot in hell. Long story short, Tyler Edmonds knew the day of the shooting who did the shooting. He knew he did not do the shooting. And when everybody, the family, the sister, all agree the boy did the shooting, why are cops what are they, clairvoyant? They're supposed to guess the boy is lying? It wasn't until much later he said, I was lying. Then the case has to be reopened and reinvestigated. Yes, it's a travesty that he went behind bars at that tender age, especially being innocent, but the fault is on the sister.
Nancy, is an 8-year-old capable of standing trial? He was 13. He went through the process, got convicted. You say an 8-year-old is capable of standing trial?
An 8-year-old is competent under the law to stand trial. But just because they're 8 years old does not mean they don't understand what's going on. They can't load a .22 caliber weapon and shoot it. He understands what's going on, which is the meaning of competence. Are you able to assist your attorney at trial? Just because he's competent doesn't mean in our jurisprudence system he should go to trial just because he understands what's happening.
There's no way an 8-year-old can competently. Most adults can't even effectively assist their lawyer at trial, let alone an 8-year-old. I mean,
I believe that, you know, your idea, Nancy, that people should have compassion for this 8-year-old and he should be treated as the right way. But there's no, I've represented a 10-year-old boy who killed another kid in an accidental shooting. And in that particular situation, the kid didn't even know what the legal system was. He had an idea from television that there were cops and they were good and that jail was bad. But that's about it. In terms of intelligently and coherently helping out, no way.
That's what bothers me about this whole thing, because at 8 years old, your brain isn't even through growing
exactly
yet.
right,
that's
Dr.
exactly
Phil.
my
So
point.
your ability
right.
to predict the consequences of your actions, to understand the gravity of your choices, is just simply, I mean, that's a neurological fact. That part of your brain just hasn't grown yet.
In fact,
Excuse me, that is why we have an entirely different system where there is no jury. The rules of evidence don't really apply the same way as I was saying for juveniles. That's why we have a juvenile system to help juveniles, not just warehouse them somewhere. And this boy, the 8-year-old, is in desperate need of help, and he's not going to get it on his own.
Well, he has a whole support system too. I mean,
Really? What system
there's
is
a
that?
family.
His parents?
There is a family that does love him. He has 2 grandparents that are very
Well,
involved
where
in
were
his
they
life.
during all these spankings and during him getting a .22 caliber weapon and ammo? Where were they
and it's
all the
obvious
time?
to me too that if this kid goes into the system, there's not going to be positives for him on the other side of that. I agree with Paul in the sense that obviously the kid needs to understand what he's done is wrong, and he's going to need to take responsibility for that as much as he can at 8 years old. But developmentally, what you brought up about his brain, he doesn't understand long-term consequences.
Well, this kid has a steep hill in front of him no matter what.
Definitely,
Even if he gets the proper care, the proper treatment, whether it's your course, Nancy's course, your course, whatever, he's got to live with the reality.
He has to live with what he's
If
done.
in fact he is guilty, he has to live with the reality that he killed 2 people, and that's a heavy burden.
Father. I mean,
That's a heavy burden on anybody. All right, coming up, a murder so